10:02 here, Jock 98.7 FM, Springfield, Missouri, and we are pleased to be joined by Johnny Rowe. Johnny Rowe joins us via FaceTime. You got that Rogue barber cut going on, don't you now?
Hey man, it's good to see you. Yeah, I actually just got my haircut. I think like a week ago, but it was good to get that because I had a mop for a haircut before, and I kind of like the dapper look. So I'm glad that I looked presentable for you this morning. That was all I was caring about. Was
the best recommendation for me to tell you to go to Rogue? I mean, let's be honest. Rogue Barber is the greatest place in the world.
Yeah, I think I need to caution myself taking advice from you, but if I take anything, yeah, you've definitely recommended a good place to get a haircut because I will say that's the best haircut I've had in town.
They're so good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing great, man. So Emily and I have got like a couple things to finish up, but then we're about to put our house on the market. I've got a few other investments that I'm looking at, both here and in Kansas City. So at least professionally, things are looking like they're going to move forward here. It's going to be a really good summer. I'm really excited for what the market holds. And, with interest rates being so low and me being in real estate, that's a good thing to have right now. So I like that. As far as my favorite thing in the world, sports, it still sucks. There's nothing right now, but it's at least from what I've been reading, I think it's getting better. I was listening to you just before you had me on. I'm really upset about some of the stuff they're talking about in baseball. I just don't understand I don't understand baseball's approach really. If you look at like European soccer, Germany's back, Italy, the epicenter of this, virus besides the US, I guess, and Spain are both scheduled to resume their seasons in June, with stipulations of they're going to play every day. Or have games every day, and teams can only play once every 72 hours. So they're just going to spread it out, but play every day so that the demand that the fans want is there. I just don't understand what baseball is doing. Like his name is whoever you were interviewing last was talking about whenever he puts a glove on, he just like spits, and that resonated with me so much because I agree. Like I never just spit. Unless I'm like on the ball field playing softball, it's just a part of the game. Seeds are a part of the game, fist bumps. I don't know how they're going to police that. I don't know why they're even releasing that. And I want baseball back, but it's just kind of concerning the measures that they're taking. I don't know. What do you think?
I think some of it might be calculated just to, like I said, to appease the health officials because they're ultimately going to have to get approval from people who are doctors.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I told somebody the other day, I love doctors. They're great. We need them badly. They save our lives. They do great work. If I did everything that even my general practitioner asked me to do, if I leave the doctor's office and I get about a checklist of about 8 things, if I get about 2 of those accomplished, I'm feeling pretty damn good about myself. I'm never going to get all 8. Okay, I'm just not shooting for the stars here. I'm not trying to live till I'm 101, okay? I see what happens when you're 101. Not that great.
You're not trying to be the bubble boy from Seinfeld.
That's absolutely not. So I think sometimes you lay out the ground rules, and then there's a lot of flexibility there. So getting approval, I think, is probably the most important aspect of all this because – all these governors can say basically whatever they want about playing sports in their states, but ultimately they're going to have to get approval from like the CDC and the health officials to actually do that. And I don't know. Again, we're not checking off the list of all 8 is what I'm getting at.
Right, and I just don't see how. Like, if they wanted to police all this, and the angle that you took actually is a really good point. You're probably right. They're probably trying to just scratch some backs here. But like, let's say Whit Merrifield hits a single, and the first base coach Mitch Meyer fist bumps him. Are they going to come out and be like, "Hey, what are we doing here? What are we doing?"
I don't know.
No, you lose. Get out. Like, no, I don't know what they're going to do. So.
Sir, you spit. That's a strike.
Yeah. Hey, some of the Royals pitchers are going to need the batters to do that this year, that's for sure.
Hey, did you see your leader of men, as he was called in St. Louis, Michael Matheny? He's quite the griller. Did you see him whip up that meal on the Traeger? He tweeted for the first time in like 2 years.
You mean Mike Matheny, your favorite manager of all time?
Yeah. That I'm very happy is on your side of the state.
Yeah, the captain of the ship. No, I didn't see that. But, if I were to look at Mike Matheny, if I just saw him in passing, I would think he was kind of he would come off as a jerk who likes to grill and, shoot things out of the sky.
No, he's actually really nice.
Okay. But you just don't like him.
Well, he's a horrible manager. No, it's not that I don't like him. I actually like him as a human being. He was very different before he took over the managerial role. He was actually very personable and would always say hi. And then he got the job, and he became like I don't know. He became somebody that I didn't want any part to do with the St. Louis Cardinals, and I made that very clear. So
you're saying that you disagree with something about Mike Matheny and you don't absolutely hate him? Because society says today that if anyone has a differing opinion or anything that I don't like, I have to hate them. So that's what you're saying. Yeah. I'm very glad that he's the manager of the Kansas City Royals and not the St. Louis Cardinals. I could not be more abundantly clear on that premise. It's going to be different this year. Ned Yost had been around for a long time, and before Ned Yost, it was a revolving door of managers for the Kansas City Royals. So I'm interested to see just maybe he's changed some things. Him being Matheny, so we'll see. Because the last time that you told me you didn't like a Chiefs coaching hire was Steve Spagnuolo, and that turned out pretty well, I'd say. It did. It turned out into a world championship for you. But yeah. Spags was a horrible head coach. He's been proven to be a pretty decent defensive coordinator. I mean, give him good players and see what happens. But, all right, enough of that shtick. Johnny Rose, our guest here on Jock 98.7. Man, wouldn't just watching a baseball game be great, I mean, how many days did we, if there's like a day game on, we'd go catch lunch or something, and there's nothing better than it. Day baseball game. I love it. Yeah, I was thinking the other day, because I've said, multiple times on here that, I just love keeping score for the game. I love the game, but I just love keeping score for the game and, every night just, being involved and watching, because every time you watch a baseball game, it's different than the one before. And, you're at least going to find something new or something different every single time. And it really sucks not having it right now. It takes away from like the time of year too. Every time this time of year comes around, like I look forward to March and April because, obviously there's usually March Madness and baseball starts and the NFL draft, and all of that's kind of being taken away. So it's really watering down this time of year. And, spring, the season of new life, the weather's changing. It's not, except in Springfield, it's rained for about 30 straight days. And have you seen the forecast? Yeah, it's bad next week too. Ron Hurst. Yeah, KY3 weather. We are going to all be living on Noah's Ark in the next 3 weeks because of the rain that'll be passing through Springfield. Dun, 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 dun. Do you have your emergency pack with light bulbs and batteries and your transistor radio? Handheld radio, probably. Yeah. I think we've got the doomsday covered with all of this rain. But that I've never even liked rain in the first place. Rain means there's no baseball. Rain is detrimental to baseball. And if you can't play baseball, then, what the hell are you doing? Let me go into my Alex Jones and ask you this next question. Are you as upset with weather people as I am? Because I'm done with them, Johnny. I can't do them. They literally drive me insane. Are you done? Yeah. Yeah, so I was actually, you had mentioned the other day that, just how much you miss baseball. And I was thinking, if there's seriously one thing that I could ask for during this quarantine, what would make it better for me? I don't know how selfish this is, but it would seriously be that baseball is back. I'm not kidding you. I think a lot of people feel that way. Why do you think that is? Because baseball's a comfort constant. I really think that because it's on every day. I mean, it's ridiculous. They'll play 12 games in a row, and then they have an off day, and you're like, this is brutal.
I can't wait for tomorrow when they come back on. And it's like, man, they need a break, but it's just always there. And the sweet sound, Jeff Levering was talking about being in his yard and cutting the grass and listening to a game, and I couldn't relate to that more. I mean, it's like, who doesn't in the summer when they're doing yard work or in their garage doing who knows whatever men do, weird things, blowing up stuff. Who doesn't have that on their little radio outside, listening to a game? I mean, catching a ball game. And there's just something unique about baseball, and it's America's pastime, man.
The ballpark in and of itself is enticing. Just, like if it's a hot night and, you worked all week and you're trying to get out to a Friday night game, like, man, I was thinking about that stuff, with us being in Springfield, we being my wife and I, we would last year drive up to Kansas City for the weekend, and we'd drive right into town. She'd take a half day from work, or I would leave early and drive right into town, catch a game like on Friday night, like then go Saturday if it's a night game, and then come home. And it's just like stuff like that is what I miss. And just like you said, I think baseball is so easily accessible when it's in season. It's like you just know it's there. It's a constant. When that constant's taken away from you, that's where it gets tough. It's like, if every day you're having your cup of coffee and someone takes it away, because that coffee is your stimulant. That coffee is what releases endorphins and makes you happy. If someone takes that coffee away, you're like, damn, I can't wait till I have my next cup of coffee. It's like that's kind of how baseball is. And, I don't know what's going to happen. And that's also part of the unsettling feeling too. Like as humans, we crave control, and we want to be able to know that things are going to happen. And it's just still to that point where different states are having different regulations and opening to professional sports teams at different time periods. We're just still in that uneasy period of knowing whether or not we're going to have sports back. And I really hope that baseball is coming back soon.
What's your go-to at the ballpark? Are you does Kaufman have any specialties that you participate in?
Oh, yeah. So I like to go to games. I was talking to Emily about this, my wife. We have this bucket list of, when we move back to Kansas City after we establish a nice real estate portfolio here in Springfield, that we want to have season tickets, right?
Every game?
That's one of the reasons I married the gal, too.
She loves baseball.
Oh my gosh, dude, she loves baseball. Like that is her ideal night, is coming home, eating a good meal, and watching the ball game. So,
and you know what? She knows baseball too. So like sometimes it's really annoying when like a fan talks to me about baseball that doesn't know baseball. Mm-hmm. I've told Emily this. I'm like, I could talk baseball with you all the time because you get the game.
It's awesome, dude. And like, I'll get back to the question of what I get at the ballpark here pretty soon. But freshman year,
I'll get back to it in about 5 minutes here. Let me go on my rant.
I'm going to brag on her one more time. One of the coolest things was freshman year in the dorms at Missouri State on a nice day. Her and I would just grab our gloves and a softball, and we'd go out into the courtyard in front of the dorms and just play catch. And, to brag on myself a little bit, I've got a good arm. I would hum that thing as fast as I could. And she would just not even flinch, pop, catch it, hum it right back. And I would see like guys walk by and be like, dude, whoa, girls can do this? Nice. And that was one of like the moments that, it sounds kind of corny, but that's one of the times I knew she was the one, is because, sports is such a big part of my life, baseball in particular. And if I can share baseball with her, from just something as simple as playing catch, I don't have to like water down how I play catch. That's a huge plus. She likes to watch baseball. She likes to go to the ballpark. She's also a 10. She's a smoke show, so I'm a big fan of
that. So she checks all the boxes.
She checks all the boxes. And so to get back to where we were, I do have a go-to. So I like to go to games back-to-back nights. So like ideally I'd go to a game on a Friday night and then Saturday.
Okay.
So you get into town Friday night, you go to the ballpark. As soon as you get into the ballpark, you got to get a beer. And I get the big beer. So they have like
Bud Light or Budweiser or?
Yeah, so actually you have to go to a certain area of coffee. At least this was last year, and I don't know if they've changed it. You have to go to a certain area to get Bud Light. So right as you walk in, your only options as far as light domestic beer would be a Coors Light or a Miller Light.
Yeah, you're not getting Coors or Miller at Busch.
No, obviously not. So I walk in, I'll just, depending on what I'm feeling, I'll grab one of those, and then I'll grab a dog, and Emily will do the same, right? And then we'll just go to our seats, whatever. And then as far as food goes, that's it for me. I just start pounding the beers.
You just delete beer? You have a liquid diet?
I just start deleting beers, and then I usually take my frustrations out on whatever side of the field we're on. I like to start yelling at either the third or the first base coach for the opposing team.
So you start hollering. You get after it.
Oh, yeah, because those coaches, they have that, makeshift coach's box, right? I yell, "You better get back in that box! You better get back in that box! Dude, you're out of the box!" It's just like an innocent thing, and, if there's this is kind of bad, but if there's a heavy-set player, and he doesn't hit for a very high average, I like to yell at that player and tell him he can't even hit his weight. So I go for the low-hanging fruit.
Man.
And I'll tell you this
You're
right
a
now,
savage.
Partner. I'll tell you this right now, partner. I don't care if it's next year, 2 years. As soon as those damn Houston Astros come to town, you'll see me there every single game that I can screaming at those cheaters. I cannot tell you enough about how disappointed I am in them and how I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't care. I don't care that you're a pitcher, Justin Verlander. You're a part of it too, you cheating scum. I don't care. I don't care.
I had Luke Gregerson on last week, and I asked him about it, and he talked about it, but I can tell that there is some part of him that is very guilty about what happened.
It's
and
because
I think everybody.
It's like. Sorry, Nate, I cut you off.
Okay.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, so at first it was probably being done by a handful of people or whatever, and people just didn't, someone maybe like Gregerson or I don't know who, but they were like, okay, it's going on. I know it's going on, but it's working. I'm not going to say anything. And then it just keeps going, and more people do it, and it's like, it's one of those things that maybe some of the guys didn't know it was so bad until they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile, one of those things, right? They kept getting away with more and more and more, and then it became this big ruse. And now they're using the video review room with a monitor, high-speed cameras. I read that there was some integration of Apple Watches at some point. There was, this rumor of the buzzer under Altuve. That's something I think about. You're Jose Altuve, right, in a game that's going to send you to the World Series, and you just absolutely crush a slider off of Aroldis Chapman, right?
Who does that?
Who does that? And it wasn't a terrible pitch. He knew it was coming all the way. How are you sitting there in that part of the count, right? And I can't tell if I'm screaming. My dog's looking at me scared. I'm getting angry over here. How do you know that a slider is coming in that situation? It's Aroldis Chapman. Why would he not go with the fastball there? I'm going to bring 105. You're 5'6". Let's see if you can hit this thing. He's not going to go slider there. But Altuve, of course, knew slider was coming and crushed it 440. I don't know.
It's pretty bogus. When you boil it down, when you reduce it into those mini moments, it's they just cheated. They cheated in the most egregious way. It's filth. I know. It's really annoying.
I, with every fiber of my being, cannot stand the New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. But I feel for them. I do. I can empathize with their, I think they're.
What about the Indians?
All of them, yes. But I was just saying that because we were talking about the Chapman situation. I think that New York Yankee fans are a bit obnoxious. I think that's fair to say.
Sure.
But they're a very passionate fan base, right? And to have something like that happen is crushing in and of itself, right? Chapman giving up a walk-off to Altuve, and then all this stuff comes out. I would just be furious. And there's really, there's nothing you can do, right? If you strip the Astros of their title, which I think that they should do, or multiple ones, and you award it to the Yankees, it's just, or somebody else, it just doesn't have the same luster that winning it outright does. So I don't know how they're going to do that, but I do empathize with Yankees fans.
So you don't ever eat at the ballpark?
Oh, no. Okay, yeah. So I go dog the first night, maybe a dog. If it's like a buck night, I'll get a couple dogs, right? But if it's just a regular night, I'm not paying $5.75 for another dog. I'm just going to delete beers. The next day, I'll probably have a bit of a groggy headache in the morning, you could say.
I love how you're so money conscious. $5.75. You're at the ball game. You know you're going to get charged out the wazoo for a hot dog.
I just, I'm money conscious, but I'm okay paying $11.25 for a beer. So that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I guess maybe I should reevaluate that. But the next day, I usually stay away from the beers, and I go. They've got these drinks up there that I can't remember what they're called, but they're just like this blue mixy drink that's kind of fruity and frou-frou.
What? You get like a slushy?
I go with these like blue slushy drinks. They turn my teeth blue. And then I get nachos instead of the nachos that come in like the helmet.
Yeah.
And then I just start drinking the mixies.
Man, let me tell you, nachos, I don't get them very often. And so when I do get them, I am like in heaven with that cheese, and give me the jalapenos. I mean, pile them on. I love jalapenos.
Give me the chili.
I don't need any of that extra stuff. Just a lot of cheese and the jalapenos, and I'm pretty set. Man, I could go for some nachos right now. But so I think it was a couple years ago, but only at one part of the ballpark. It's called the Bowtie Bar at Busch Stadium. You can go get a Busch beer for $5, 12-ounce can, and that's a great deal to me. $5 for a Busch beer can, but the secret sort of the cat got out of the bag a little bit. So now there's lines but man, it was a way to push people to that side of the ballpark, the left field pavilion. But man, $5 for, cold as the mountains, smooth as her name, easy drinking Busch beer. And that gets the job done real well. And in addition, this is a little frou-frou too. In the Redbird Club, they have a stir-fry stand. And you wouldn't think, right? Stir-fry at the ballpark. It is tremendous. Now, it costs like $30. It's ridiculous. It's so outrageously expensive. But they fill up a Chinese box, like with typical carry-out Chinese little box. It's so much food, you could split it between a full family. Now, I eat the whole thing because I get after it now. But, I mean, they make the best stir-fry. It's so good, and it's become quite popular. So if you go to Busch Stadium, that stir-fry is very good. But from a just ballpark stance, nachos and a lot of jalapenos.
Yeah, your pronunciation on that word is stellar, by the way. Purposefully
it is.
Pronouncing it wrong.
Exactly.
But, actually, that you bring that up, I was thinking there's I think each ballpark kind of has, the smell of the ballpark. Yeah, but if you go to, certain other ones, I know the smell that you're talking about. The one time I had been to Busch Stadium, I know what you're talking about.
You'll smell it.
Walked around. Yeah.
The garlic you'll smell it.
There's and I don't know if they have this at Busch Stadium or other ones, but I just know they have it every time at Kaufman. They have a stand that sells sugar caramelized
peanuts,
cashews and stuff like that. And dude, you can now that's I've never bought those because it's like $12 for a bag of nuts.
And is it a wet bag of nuts or or are they dry?
Sidestep, move on. That's something that I always know too. And then there's another thing that I was going to bring up they've got these. Have you seen these? I've seen the people walking up and down the aisles. They've got a skewer of banana, strawberry, and marshmallow pieces covered in chocolate. Do they have that at Busch?
Probably. I mean,
and people are out here. Okay, here I go again on the money thing. People are just shelling out $15 for like 4 pieces of fruit. Like, God, if I were a kid and he's like, "Daddy, can I have that?" I'd be like, "Shut up, kid. Watch a damn game."
You'll get nothing and like it.
But that's how my dad was too. And my dad's a great guy, but if I ever was like at the ball game or Chiefs game, I was like, "Dad, can I have some nachos?" He'd be like, "Here," and he'd give me the binoculars. He'd be like, "Watch the left guard pull right here."
Yeah, my dad was always annoyed with my necessity for food at games. My mom was a much easier target to be like, "Ooh, Mom, want to go get some chicken tenders?" And she, "Oh yeah, let's go," because she didn't care about the game. She did, but last night ESPN showed Game 6, which is probably, I think it's probably the best game in history of the game. I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm biased, obviously, but wow. I mean, that thing really had it all.
I'm with you there. I have biases, like a bias to KC for some of their games, but as far as just looking, if I can look at it, just from a neutral standpoint, one of the most exciting 2011.
Yeah,
was that when that was? Yeah, that was one.
You were 4.
Yeah, shut up. I was 17. I remember watching that game with some of my friends in Kansas City, and there was one of them who was a Cardinals fan, and he was, a lot of time when that stuff happens, you're cheering and stuff. The entire time, the David Freese moment, he was jaw to the floor, he was in complete shock that this actually happened. And every time I have goosebumps now talking about it.
I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again because it's so great. The game went so late, and after all the post-game stuff, it was after 1 a.m., and I had to work a morning show the next day in the home radio booth. So I drove the KMOX van. I drove the KMOX van to Humphrey's Bar to meet some buddies on the SLU campus. Had a brewski or two, drove right back to the ballpark, slept in the home radio booth, because the morning show, I had to get up and plug everything in about 4 a.m., and did the morning show, Phillips and Company morning show on Y98, and right after went home, slept, and then went right back to the ballpark for Game 7 to watch that magistry happen, and who knows what happened that evening.
What was that? Is that Nelson Cruz in right field?
Yeah, Nelson Cruz dropped the ball in right field.
Yeah. Man.
That was a bad play. All right, Johnny Rose, our guest. It's 10:30. We're just kind of shooting the bull here. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come back. I've asked Johnny to compile some of the more random players that he can remember at different spots. And I haven't written anything down, so I'm just going to run on the fly with this. But you'll be amazed. I'm pretty good at on the fly. I do it every morning.
You just did it for the last half hour.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't write a whole lot down in this arsenal. So stay with us. 10:31, Springfield Sports Leader, Jock 98.7 FM. So disappointing that you can't hear the intro music. I love that song. It's Uprising by Muse. That gets my juices boiling. I'm so pumped today. I get to play Buffalo Ridge. Beautiful golf course. One of Johnny Morris's fantastic. I can't wait. I hope I play good. I'm playing these new irons, and when I hit them pure, it's like hitting butter.
Did Donald Trump buy you those irons?
I bought them with my Trump bucks. I sure did.
You'd be proud.
They're used, but they're in great condition. I mean, $400. I felt like it was a steal, and I just love them. I haven't. You see my face. I love these irons. They're 7/16, so they're 2016 Titleist AP2s. The only thing I got to get now is I got a new bag for Christmas, and the bag broke. And Titleist is closed, so it's not great. But telling my dad that my bag broke is not easy for me because I have what some would probably call anger issues. So he probably thinks that I smack the bag with my club, which is not unprecedented. I mean, don't get me wrong. The reason why I got this old bag that's so beat up is because I've beat the living tar out of this thing. But I didn't beat it. The leg just kicked out. It was just a bad thing. But he has to take it back to his course, who's got to ship it back to Titleist, and it's this whole ordeal. It's really annoying.
That's why I don't golf. I can't. My temper's too short. Usually for one, I'm horrible at golf. And two, so I'll usually come up to the tee box, I'll drive it, and then I'll get mad. I'll huck my driver down the fairway, and it'll go further than the ball. So I usually just play the driver.
It's a very humbling game.
Yeah.
I think you would love it. I can't believe that you haven't picked it up, especially in quarantine. I feel like you could really get good at golf.
I like golf. I love being on the golf course. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, you're crazy if you wouldn't. But I can't get my baseball swing out of it, and I pull up every time. I mean, if I make contact with the ball, I'm lucky. So yeah, if I'm teeing off, it usually got a heads up on the adjacent tee box because I might hit you on a slice.
It's so funny that Jeff Levering used to play Springfield Golf and Country Club because that's my home course, and it's great. Love it. It's convenient. But he said he was a 9 to 11. I play at about a 12 handicap. So, inconsistent. It's a tough game. It's a hard game. And trying to explain to somebody who doesn't get golf, like why you just shot a 90, it's like, it's so annoying. Like my buddy Cannon's like, how do you do that? You play every day and you shoot a 90. I'm like, oh, let's take you out there. You'd shoot 190. Ugh, drives me nuts. All right, so Johnny Rowe's our guest here. By the way, give folks a little tidbit. Plug yourself here before we get into our random players.
I appreciate that, man.
Sure.
So as far as real estate goes, I've been trying to be a lot better about my showing what I'm doing on Instagram. My first thought is never to post on Instagram, but I'm trying to be better at that with how integrated social media is. So Johnny Rowe _real estate is my real estate Instagram. It's more of a professional side. I communicate with people through direct messaging and through comments and stuff like that about investing strategies. And then I like to post pictures of little household flip things that I do. I just recently posted a bedroom flip and put some shiplap up in a bathroom.
I saw it. It's amazing. I mean,
I appreciate that.
I can't even, like, if I would have walked into that house before you did such great work to it, I would have thrown up. That's how bad the before pictures were. And the after is just remarkable. I mean, you've transcended this house into a beautiful home. I was amazed, actually. I've been meaning to tell you that. I looked at those before and after slides. I was really impressed.
Yeah, here I am coming on an ESPN-affiliated radio station talking about how I just delete beers and yell at third base coaches at the ballpark. But I can actually do something professional, too.
Sure.
And then as far as talking about sports and interacting with people, I'm very active on Twitter, which my name on there is sportstalk_JR. Love talking about Chiefs, Royals, Sporting KC, and then anything else that is involved in the sports world. I need to stay away from some of the political stuff, though. It's starting to trigger me early in the morning. But other than that, that's where you can find me on social media. And as always, Nate, I really appreciate you giving me the time on this platform to do that.
It's very fun for me to have you on. All right, so I asked you to compile a list of the most random Royals you could think of. And I hadn't written anything down before our last commercial break. And then I did write some names down. So how do you want to do this?
Yeah, so
I wrote tit for tat, or do you want to just – you've got just random names, right?
I've got random names, my favorite players at each position. Maybe we should just go position by position, and you can kind of give me, or I can – whatever, who wants to go first, and we can just talk about who we got.
So my catcher is Keith McDonald, which is probably a name that no one's heard of, but he'll always be memorable in Cardinals history because in his first ever Major League Baseball plate appearance – home run. I think it was one of an illustrious 3 that Keith hit. Horrible catcher. Really wasn't worth a penny. But he hit a home run in his first ever Major League at bat. And so Keith McDonald's my random catcher.
Never even heard of that player. So I'll go with mine as far as catcher goes. So I said my favorite player for catcher for Royals is Salvador Perez. He's awesome. But as far as – and what's actually a fun thing about Salvador Perez is that when the Royals won the World Series in 15, he got a horrific blue Royals championship tattoo on his inner bicep. And, it looks so terrible. It's just a bad look. The blue is, like, faded now. And
ooh.
But if I had to go with a random one, the Royals had a guy named Matt Trainer. He was the husband of Olympic gold medalist Misty May Trainer in sand volleyball. So, yeah, Matt Trainer would be mine. Again, he's not going to get the defensive accolades that Salvador Perez has, or as you're familiar with, Yadier Molina, but, a guy he's going to work hard all week. He'll come catch the late innings, and he'll catch for you on Sunday. So Matt Trainer's mine.
Matt Trainer, I'm pretty sure, played for like half the league.
Yeah.
A long-time Marlin, but Matt Trainer. Yeah, he really struck gold. Got the better half there. First baseman, I'm going Bobby Bonilla. Did you even know he was a Cardinal?
No.
There you go.
No.
And if Bobby Bonilla doesn't get hurt in spring training of 2000, there is no birth of El Hombre. Albert Pujols made the team out of spring training because Bobby Bonilla got hurt. But, man, Bobby Bonilla was in his later stages of his career. But his batting practice, whoa. Okay, this guy launched bombs. Bombs, J-Ro.
That's a quick point on that. If anybody listening has not done this before, do yourself a favor, and maybe one of these times you go to the ballpark when they're back open, go watch batting practice. It is a show.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
It is unbelievable what some of these guys do as far as hitting the ball and distance, and just they can put it wherever they want. But as far as first base goes, so so here, this will be fun. I'm going to combine my random ones for first and second base just real quick.
Okay.
It's not a big – so in 2006, the Royals were the joke of the league again. But they had a first baseman named Doug Minkiewicz.
Oh, yeah. I know him.
Okay.
He got the final out from the 04 World Series with the Red Sox.
04 champ with the Red Sox. Okay. And then my second baseman, they had these two guys on the right side of the infield at the same time. All right, so Doug Minkiewicz at first, second base, former Cardinal, Mark Grudzielanek.
Sure, watched him hit for the cycle one day.
So in 2006, the most exciting thing about the Kansas City Royals was that there was, if you combine the last names of the second and first baseman, you got 24 letters, which is the most of all time.
Ever. Minkiewicz and Grudzielanek.
Yeah.
That's pretty good tidbit right there. My random second baseman is Tony Womack. Cardinals had him in 04. He was a spark plug. Led them all the way to the World Series, but then they forgot to show up in Boston. Oh, and fittingly, Doug Minkiewicz. So that was the first time that they had won the Red Sox in a long time. Minkiewicz wouldn't give him the ball. He pocketed the ball because it ground out from Renteria to Keith Folk over to Minkiewicz. He put it in his back pocket, wouldn't give it to the team. Savage move. Who's your shortstop?
Yeah, so here's my random one. It's Angel Baroa. Angel Baroa was the 2003 American League Rookie of the Year, and not 4 years or 5 years later was playing for the Kansas City T-Bones in Independent League.
Dude, that guy had some power.
The 2003 AL Rookie of the Year, Kansas City thought we had found, 03 was a year where the Royals were in playoff contention for the majority of the season, ended up getting third in the division, but it was an exciting year to watch because, the Royals had been abysmal for years. So they were actually in contention. They have this young stud of a shortstop, AL Rookie of the Year. It all goes to hell. He starts being a journeyman, and then I had gone to a T-Bones game randomly with some friends a few years later, and the opposing team had Angel Baroa on their team. So actually, he didn't play for the T-Bones, but he was playing at the T-Bone Stadium.
Dude, Angel Baroa. I had to think through my catalog of players in my brain, which is a dangerous thing to do. But I know Angel Baroa. And I just remember Baroa could hit some bombs. Maybe in a video game. I don't know where I've seen this, but Angel Baroa. He was a flash in the pan without question. Mine's kind of lame. I just went Royce Clayton, but I loved Royce Clayton. Big fan of Royce Clayton, even though he took Ozzie Smith's job. A lot of people won't like that.
Somebody's got to take it, right?
And
it eventually goes.
And it was right when I was really coming into like a baseball fan, that 95, 96 season. You probably weren't even born. But Royce Clayton. My third baseman, I could not go with Gary Gaetti. The man, he looked like a post office mail. He looked like a mailman playing third base. You know, pants really didn't fit all that well. But this guy could just hit bombs too. I mean, Gary Gaetti bombs.
That's hilarious. That's like some random person who I've met, if they were describing me to somebody else, and the first thing that they said was, "Yeah, that's Johnny Rowe. Yeah, his pants didn't fit very well." that would be the worst.
It's just like it was an awkward fit. It didn't look very comfortable. It looked a little tight.
Like when the guys have the elastic around the bottom of the leg, and
don't
it's
get
like
me started.
pinched like up the shin, and it looks terrible.
Don't get me started on fashion.
My third baseman, at being a Royals fan, just have to mention George. George is insane, best Royal of all time. But if I would go random Joe Randa. Have you ever heard of Joe Randa? Joe Randa was a third baseman for the Royals, 2 different stints. I believe he went to Cincinnati for a little bit. I might have to check me on that, but they always called him Smiling Joe. Smiley Joe. Joe Randa was always smiling, had a big old grin all the time, and played a really good third base. And for a Royals team that was bad there for a lot of years, Joe Randa was a consistent guy, showed up every day to play, and played a good third base, and just, hit 260, 270 maybe.
I don't know Joe Randa. Huh. How about that?
If you look up a picture of Joe Randa, I guarantee you he's smiling.
Did his pants fit?
Yeah. Great pants on Joe Randa.
Matthew, do we need to take a break? I just looked at the clock. It's suddenly 10:48. All right, why don't we take a quick break? We'll come back, and we'll get to our outfielders and one pitcher. And that's how we'll finish out our Wednesday edition of the program. Johnny Rose with us, Jock 98.7 FM. Alongside Matthew Frizzell, I'm Nate Lucas, Johnny Rowe, with an appearance from Rue, your dog there.
Sorry about that, man.
Hey, I love it. I love this. All right, so we got 3 random outfielders and then a pitcher to get through. I'll just give you mine. Randy Wynn, who played a long time with the Rays. The Cardinals signed him. They tried to plug him in there. They were running through their outfielders like candy in 2008, and they tried Randy Wynn. Just wasn't worth it. He just was out of gas. But Randy Wynn, my center fielder, it doesn't really apply because he played all over the place. I don't even know if he ever played center. But Sean Dunston. You ever remember him? He was a good player.
Hell no.
He was a versatile player. You could plug him anywhere. You could play the corners. He had decent speed, and he could hit the ball to the gaps. He was a good player. And then right fielder Reggie Sanders. I love Reggie because one of my favorite games ever was a 10-inning game against the Houston Astros. Mark Mulder pitched all 10 innings. I spent the game in the radio booth before I had any affiliation. I just used to write notes, and sometimes they'd let me in, sometimes not. And Wayne Hagen brought me into the booth, and I'm watching that, and Reggie Sanders reaches on an infield single and then scores on a Larry Walker double, and Mulder was the winning pitcher 10 innings. When do you see that anymore? And my random pitcher is Jose Jimenez, who was a flash in the pan, but when he was on, he could throw some darts now. He was a pretty good pitcher.
All right, so my 3 random ones are all players that came up with the Royals and that the Royals were so bad they couldn't keep and they moved on to greener pastures. Johnny Damon, Carlos Beltran, and Jermaine Dye. All players that went on to be stars or superstars wherever they went. And the Royals were stuck with players like, I love this player, but he's not a stud, like David DeJesus, my favorite Royal of all time, but he is just, a guy.
DeJesus over Hosmer? You're taking DeJesus over Hosmer?
Yeah. I like Hosmer, but DeJesus is my favorite. Grew up with DeJesus. He was just always there. And then Royals had guys like Coco Crisp.
Yeah. He was actually an original Cardinal farmhand, Coco Crisp.
Just random players would come through, and the Royals had stud players that they just couldn't hold on to, and that was back when the ownership just wasn't a fan of, I guess, paying good players what they deserve. So, and then my pitcher, I just want to give a shout-out to this guy. was awesome in the booth, and it's the late Paul Splittorff. Paul Splittorff is the Royals has the Royals record for career wins with 166. He has over 2,500 innings, which is also a Royals record. Was awesome in the booth, and a guy that I miss hearing from all the time. Paul Splittorff was awesome. One other pitcher that I'll say, the 2009 AL Cy Young winner, Zach Greinke. Started with the Royals, another guy that the Royals couldn't keep. Zach Greinke that year had 252 strikeouts, a 2.16 ERA. Keep in mind, with a horrible team. He was 16-8, which accounted for 25% of the Royals' wins that year. They finished 65-97. Zach Greinke.
Careful, don't give him too many accolades. He might get anxious.
Yeah, another guy. Yeah, the Royals, we have the best pitcher in the entire American League. Oh, now he is nervous and doesn't want to play baseball anymore. Great. Oh, also, Zach Greinke can rake at the plate.
Zach Greinke is a borderline Hall of Fame pitcher.
I would say so.
He's got some darn good numbers. I think if he could win a championship, that would go a long way for him.
I like when he flips that 58-mile-an-hour curveball in there, too, to throw people off. You know that too much from Wainwright, too. He flips that thing in there slow.
Old Uncle Charlie. Listen, Johnny, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to come on, man, anytime.